Today, so as you know, we have been doing the Arba'un al-Nawawi, and we have been spending a lot of time on Hadith Jibril, as you know, and the last portion of Hadith Jibril, we briefly touched upon it last time, was Jibril alayhi salam asking Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when is the day of judgment? When is akhbirni an as-sa'a? Tell me about tell me about the hour. Tell me when is it going to come? And he said that I don't know and you don't know and only Allah knows. And we looked at those evidences. And then Jibril alayhi salam asked Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, tell me about its signs. Okay. And then Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam talked about two signs of the day of judgment. We will spend the rest of today, inshallah, covering as much as we can about the signs of day of judgment. This is going to be a fascinating class. This is necessarily not talked about in detail. So I hope you guys enjoy it, inshallah, and learn from it. But most importantly, why do I want to spend so much time? I spent hours and hours gathering information, right? I wanted to spend this time because this is so important. It is part of our deen. Anything in this hadith where Jibril alayhi salam is coming, especially to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, in front of all these people in the form of a human being and teaching him his religion, where Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam toward the end, if you remember, Rasulullah asked him, did you know who that was? And Umar radiallahu anhu, he said, only Allah and his messenger knows who that was. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, فَإِنَّهُ Jibril, that was Jibril, أَتَاكُمْ يُعَلِّمُكُمْ دِينَكُمْ, he came to teach you your deen. He came to teach you your deen. So every question that he asked and every answer that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says is the foundation, the fundamental principles of our deen. And included in it are the signs of the day of judgment, right? So this is why I want to spend time on it. So last time we talked about the two signs in here in this hadith were what we call, there are two types of signs. There are major signs and minor signs, right? And these two really were minor signs. We'll cover them briefly here, inshallah. But I want to spend a lot of time talking about some of the major signs as well, inshallah. Sounds good? And I want this to be interactive. So that's why I'm opening up, even though we have a lot of content to go through, I want you to ask me questions, okay? Why is the signs of the day of judgment so important? You hardly find an event like what I'm about to tell you in the seerah. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam one day started to talk about the signs of the day of judgment to a lot of people. He spent from Fajr till Maghrib time or something like that, almost the whole day. He kept on talking to people about the signs of the day of judgment. Imagine Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam spending so much time doing nothing but talking about the signs of the day of judgment. And there was so much information he shared. It took him almost the whole day to speak about it. Okay. And he spoke about what's going to happen right after him and what's going to happen in the future, etc., etc. So it's the study of the signs of the day of judgment in English is called eschatology. Okay, just so you guys know. There are so many evidences of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's prophethood, or his birth or his coming, was essentially what kick-started the day of judgment. He said that I and the day of judgment came together like this, meaning I essentially am the sign. I myself am the sign that starts the end of times, the end times. Okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always reminds us in the Quran that you guys think the day of judgment is far away, but it's not far away, it's very near. Innahum yarawna ba'ida wa narahu qariba. They think it's far away, but we see it as very close. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Iqtaraba as-sa'a," the hour has come near. And yesterday, even and last time, even we talked about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the day of judgment is around the corner and we're almost hiding it. Akadu ukhfiha. Yeah. So why is studying the signs important? It's important because it gives us it, as things unravel, okay, as things unravel, you are not disheartened. You uh, you anticipate those things happening. You understand why those things are happening because you know you're nearing the end times. That the earth is not going to go into chaos and everything is going to fall apart. Everything is going to go haywire. You anticipate it. You know why this is happening. It then gives you comfort that I understand why this is happening. It also gives you a warning that you need to check yourself and you need to not be part of the chaos that's ensuing, et cetera, et cetera. So it gives you a lot of comfort. There's so much benefit in studying the signs of the Day of Judgment. Any questions before we move on? Okay. So we talked about the minor signs and the major signs. Most of the minor signs are trends, okay? And we will look at them here shortly. But the major signs are like major events that are happening, okay? So some of the major signs here, and we will talk about them in detail. There's a hadith in Sahih Muslim. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was asked about the signs of the Day of Judgment. And he spoke of these signs, which are what we consider the major signs: the smoke, the Dajjal, the beast, western sunrise, sun rising from the west, coming of Jesus, Ya'juj, Ma'juj, Gog and Magog, also known in English, earthquake 1, earthquake 2, earthquake 3, and the fire from Yemen. These are the 10 signs, okay? And we will talk about them in as much detail as possible today, okay? He also, in another hadith, talked about trends as 6 signs as well. In general, he said the death, my death marks the beginning of the Day of Judgment. So he said, my death, the conquest of Jerusalem. By the way, when was Jerusalem conquered by the Muslims? Do you guys know? When did Palestine become Palestine? In the conquest of Jerusalem, 1400, by Muhammad Fatih, he's called, the opener, 1453. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam predicted that. He talked about a plague that will destroy a lot. Wealth, he talked about there will be abundance of wealth. There will be a lot of fitna, a lot of corruption, a lot of trials and tribulations. And then Muslims will have a treaty with Romans. So these are the 6 signs. Just remember these things, okay? I have this in front of you and we can go back to them. What happens is the trends start, and we are seeing a lot of those trends already as we go through them. Hopefully this will ring a bell in your heads. But the trends essentially then stop in a sense, which when they stop, and that will be the coming of Mahdi, coming of the guided one. And I don't know if you ever heard of the Mahdi or not before. That will mark the end of the minor signs, and then begins all the major signs of the Day of Judgment. Okay. All right. All right. So let's start with the minor signs. Any questions before this? How much of this have you heard before, by the way?
Wait. Oh, so I had a question. How long do these signs like take the place of like how many days or months?
We'll learn about that overall. So you're essentially asking me, when is the Day of Judgment coming? Essentially, we don't know, right? When will all the minor signs end? When will Mahdi come? We don't know. How long from the beginning of the major sign to the end times to the Day of Judgment? We don't know, right? So we don't know the duration of any of this. And what I'm going to tell you is pretty much all we know, okay? And all of this is based on authentic hadith. And some of the minor signs, there's some evidences in there which are, you can say, a little bit weak, but they're directionally correct. So I'm just a disclaimer. Most of the things that we'll talk about is mostly authentic. Some of that is based on weaker Hadith are weaker in many sense, not just by sanad, but also it's matan. And if you don't know what I just said, don't even worry about it, okay? But we will cover as much as possible all of the details that we have, and we'll try to piece the pieces of the puzzle together. Hadith literature is not comprehensive. When there's an event, for example, let's say you attended a football match, a football game, and 10 of your friends attended a full football game. One of them starts to talk about what happened in the football game. He might talk about a particular portion of the story, something that he interests him and that was a highlight for him. Another person might talk about another scene. Another person might talk about another scene. Another person might talk about another thing that happened. So another person will talk about not at all the football match. Maybe he was saying he would be talking about how he had to go find a place for salah while they were at the football match, right? So everybody's going to focus on different things. So that's how hadith literature are. When we get reports, there are pieces and parts, and then what muhaddithin do and scholars do, they put all the pieces of the puzzle together, try to as best as they can. But sometimes you don't know the sequence. Sometimes sequence is clear, sometimes sequence is not clear. Okay, does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question too.
Yes.
Approximately, like, how many of the minor signs have already passed? Because none of the major signs have started, right?
No, none of the major signs have started. We will see. Let's see how many can you count. Okay, let's count together. Okay. So what I have done for you is you will necessarily not find this anywhere else. What I've broken up. I have broken up all of the minor signs and categorized them, okay? So the first one is tribulation, just fitna, just a trend that, and this happened in the beginning history of Islam. After Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam died, after Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, he passed away after 2 years. After that, Umar radiallahu anh, he ruled, he was a Khalifa for about 12, 14 years. I can't remember exactly. Then Umar radiallahu anhu was killed. Okay. And this was also predicted by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a cryptic way to one of the Sahabi. He said the door will be broken. So Umar radiallahu anhu was worried that, some bad things might happen during his time. So one of the Sahabi who attended the lecture from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, it's like, you don't have to worry about it, Umar. It will happen after you. So essentially, he said that the door will be broken. And then Umar radiallahu anhu said, no, Umar radiallahu anhu asked, will the door to these events be opened or will it be broken? So the Sahabi said, who was the keeper of secrets of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was called the keeper of secrets. He used to spend a lot of time, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him a lot of secrets. Okay, so he said the door will be broken, which means essentially it means Umar radiallahu anhu will pass away, will die, he will be murdered, he will be killed. That's exactly what happened. One time Umar radiallahu anhu was leading Salah, I believe Asr Salah, and he was murdered. After that, the Khalifa was Uthman radiallahu anhu, and Uthman radiallahu anhu, he ruled for about 10, 13 years, I can't remember. And then Uthman radiallahu anhu was murdered by a huge mob. They raided his house, and a lot of difficult things happened. This is a very, very difficult part of the history of early Islam. I don't want to go into that right now. Those are not necessarily the signs of day judgment, but all of that, a lot of battles happened and Muslims fought each other, and there was bloodshed, unfortunately. Alhamdulillah, that was called the fitna, the signs of tribulations in the early times, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam predicted those. Okay, so I can talk about the details there if you want, but I don't want to take up that time. You guys are too young to understand some of those things, so we will inshallah talk about it later on. Okay. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam predicted everything. He basically said that the righteous Khilafah will last for about 30 years. And by the way, if you add up all of the times of how long Abu Bakr radiallahu anh was Khalifa, and Umar radiallahu anh was Khalifa, and Uthman radiallahu anh was Khalifa, and Ali radiallahu anh was Khalifa. You will add up, and it comes out to exactly 30 years. So that period is called that period is called the caliph, the righteous caliphate. These are the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. These will be the rightly guided caliphs that will follow me. 30 years, and after that there was a lot of bad things that happened. So Uthman radiallahu anh, I told you he was murdered, and after that Ali radiallahu anh, he was then murdered as well by another party, another fanatical party called the Khawarij, likes of the ISIS of this time, and then he was also murdered. Okay. So one thing about events is there will be the conquest of Jerusalem, the conquest of Istanbul, Constantinople, which was the Mecca of the Roman Empire, which was the center, the capital of the Roman Empire, Constantinople. That was conquered in the 15th century. So that was predicted by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also predicted the rise of the Turkish Empire, which is basically the Ottoman Empire. That he predicted that as well in an authentic hadith. So some of the trends so these are some of the events, but some of the trends is time will pass by rapidly. In one narration, and I'm paraphrasing, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that 1 year will pass by like a month, and 1 month will pass by like a week, and 1 week will pass by like a day. So to answer the question, is this happening now? Do you guys feel like time is passing by more faster than it ever did, even in your lives?
Absolutely. Couldn't be more true.
There's a psychological thing for that, though, right? Because
of course, this is psychological. Yeah. But when Rasulullah said time will pass by rapidly, obviously it's psychological. If there is a physical element to that, then we will learn about that. Obviously, physical element does not happen. But you ask any adult now, wallahi, I don't know. I wake up at 5:30 every day, and I don't know when it's 10:30 at night. Wallahi, I don't know how the time flies. And I'm just scrambling every day to bring value in my day, right? And do something positive for myself or for my family, right? And I don't know where the time goes. Wallahi, I don't know. Character. There will be a deterioration of character overall. So one thing we said, the good deeds will decrease. People will become absolutely miserly. Honesty will be lost. There will be premarital affairs abound. Okay, of course, these kinds of things happened in the past, but now having an affair outside of marriage, that's just normal, considered normal, and it happens all the time. There will be nudity everywhere. The consumption of intoxicants will be widespread. Obviously, people used to drink before, but to drink in the open, and there were all of the laws being lifted about drinking, even in the Muslim countries, okay, you can find drinking, okay? That didn't happen before. So intoxicants will be everywhere. There will be adultery and fornication everywhere. People will cheat with goods. People will not be honest. People in general, people will not be honest. There will be corruption everywhere. Giving zakat will become a burden to people. Even though people will be wealthy, they will give out even less. When people had very little, they still used to give zakat, but people will become, wealth will increase, and we'll learn about that in a second. But people will be miserly about giving zakah. The wife will disobey the husband. The children will disobey the parents. The voices will be raised in the masajid, right? People will argue in the masajid a lot. This happens. Ask our principal. Does that happen?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that was predicted by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay. Female singers and musical instruments will be everywhere. This used to definitely happen before, but like that become the focus of somebody's day or people's day. That is gonna be a trend. Do you see that happening now? When the let's see, the people will curse their predecessors, as they will say that our previous ummah was bad. Okay, the previous people, which we should consider to be honorable people and the righteous people, we will curse them. Okay, people will be beating each other. Slave trade will happen. This was predicted by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Did that happen? Yes. Okay. There will be a lot of illegitimate children out there. Men and women will make out in public. There will be people who will be brethren in public, but enemies in secret. Okay. People will dance late into the night. Does that happen? In clubs, right? There will be people. There will be special titles for people of distinction, right? Honorable judge or your majesty or those kinds of things. Definitely that used to happen, but then vice president, senior vice president, CEO, president, and whatever, congressman. So these kinds of special titles will be given to people. There will be people will be basically deceiving each other and basically fall from grace of character, right? Family ties will be cut. People will not care about the importance of the ties of the family. And depression will be everywhere. People would want to die. They're like, I wish I could die tomorrow. Depression and the suicide rate will increase. So to answer the previous question, someone asked, I can't remember who it was. Does that answer your question about what has happened thus far? Do you see that happening?
Yeah.
These all predictions from Rasulullah.
It seems like all of them have happened for the most part.
Okay. So shaming and clothing. Women will wear clothes, but they look like they're not wearing clothes. Does that happen? Tight clothing, right? Women will wear tight clothing. Men will wear silk. People will talk in the marketplace with their thighs exposed. This was unheard of before. Even as far as 50 years ago, that was unheard of before. 50, maybe 70 years, I'm old now, right? In the early 1900s, people didn't do that. And now you see people walking in the marketplace with their thighs exposed. Men will start to look like women and women will start to look like men. Does that happen? Okay. There will be a lot of knowledge. People will have knowledge, internet. People will have all the knowledge in the world, but what they will not have is the wisdom to know what is good versus not good, right? So knowledge and wisdom, essentially, ignorance will be abound, even though there will be tons of knowledge. Books and writings will be everywhere. So Rasulullah predicted this, that basically this will be the information age. We call ourselves in the information age. And now we're actually turning into so much information is available that you can put robots on that information and convert that information into human intelligence, artificial intelligence, AI, right? That's how much information is available, that you can take all that data and convert it to AI, right? So books will be everywhere, widespread, a lot of knowledge. People will reject the Quran and the Sunnah. People will believe in astrology, and people will reject the divine destiny. And children will be filled with rage. I should have put this in the other section. Children will be foul-mouthed. Women will conspire. People will carry on the trade, but there will be only very few trustworthy people. So even though we think that we live in a society where there's a lot of trust, there's a lot of backhand dealings that are happening all the time, even in the government, right? Lobbying and all of this stuff. There's a lot of corruption, hidden or evident, all the time. Corrupt leadership. So power and authority will be given to the wrong people. Is this happening? There will be 30 false messengers. We will talk more about that later on. I'm not sure if we're going to have enough time. People will strive for power in masajid. People would want leadership positions in the mosques. Okay, the leader will be the worst of the people. Those who are in leadership positions, they will be the worst of the people. Let's see. People will respect each other out of fear, not because they are actually deserving of respect. The people will get respect because other people fear them. Does that happen? Okay. Wealth will be abound. There will be huge, gigantic, beautiful mosques, but they will be empty. People will boast about the masajid, like, look how beautiful this masjid is, and you walk in and there's 5 people praying asr over there. Okay, if that. The ummah will be tested with tons of money. Is that happening? Black gold, oil. Ummah was tested with tons of money in the Arab world, right? What did they do with it? Ummah will have so much money they wouldn't know what to do with it. Obesity will increase. Does that happen? Okay. Wealth will be in abundance. Let's see. Poor will not be given a share because people will be miserly. There will be so much trade that women will have to start working. Does that happen? Okay. No, now, some of these things don't say that everything that's happening is necessarily bad. Just these are trends. Okay. So don't read in that everything that's happening is necessarily bad. Okay. Some of these things are okay, but it's just a trend. You see more and more of. Okay. People will refuse when offered food. Yeah. Before, people will be so wealthy that they can buy and eat whatever they want. And if you give them something they don't like, it's like, I don't want this. Right. Does that happen? Yeah. Your mom puts a plate of food in front of you. You don't like it because you got so much money. You're like, I don't want to eat this. Make me a sandwich. Right. War. Everywhere there will be killing. Everywhere there will be war. Everywhere there will be atrocities. The Western nation, Rasulullah used the word Romans in Rome, and that is interpreted by the scholars to mean the West. So the West will become dominant. Okay. Then Rasulullah predicted that 2 large army of Muslims will fight each other. That absolutely happened. There will be the conquest of Constantinople, Istanbul, that happened in 1453. There will be a large number of Muslims, like the foam of the sea. Is that happening? We are about 1.7, 1.8 billion people, Muslims in the whole world. Jerusalem will be conquered. We know this too. Let's see. Lack of trust. Environment. Okay, there would be large marketplaces everywhere. Is that happening? Women would outnumber men. Okay, the ratio will be 50 women to 1 man. Earthquakes will increase. We see that happening too. If you look at the geological survey, the number of earthquakes are increasing. There would be a great plague spread all over the land. May Allah protect us all from coronavirus, right? That happened in the past. That's going to continue to happen. Plagues will be everywhere. Rain will be acidic or burning. Wow. Rasulullah predicted rain will be acidic. There's so much smog in the atmosphere. When it rains, the rain is acidic, right? Episodes of sudden death will become widespread. Smog will appear over the cities. This is Rasulullah predicting all of this 1400 years ago. If this does not give you chills, this list, then I don't know what will. So Rasulullah predicted all of this, okay? There will be abundance of food, but there will be no blessing in the food. You will eat food and you will gain weight. You will become unhealthy. No blessing in the food. Technology. Rasulullah predicted technology, and this is just a small list. There's some other evidences as well. A man will leave his home with his thigh or hip will tell him what is happening back at home. Smartphones. Rasulullah predicted smartphones. His thigh and hip will tell him what is happening back home. Great distances will be traveled in a short span of time. People will hop between the cloud and the earth. There will be attempt to make deserts green. All of this is happening. Wild animals will be able to talk to humans. Okay, this can happen literally or figuratively, where you can teach the animal to speak to you. Okay, you could build AI devices and put it on a dog's brain, for example, and when he barks, that can be converted into speech. Is this giving everybody chills?
Sidi Adnan,
Yeah.
I have a question about the very first sign, which was about the slave girl giving birth to her master.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I've
That's
seen
encrypted.
that before. What does that mean? Or In your
People don't know. People don't know, but there are two interpretations of it. I'll just give you one interpretation. The other one is really cryptic. Well, I'll give you that too, just to answer your question. Since it's part of the Hadith, it's very common. Slave girl with birth to a master. Nobody really knows what it means. Okay, it's very cryptic, and most of the predictions are cryptic. Okay, and people derive interpretations from that. Okay, some of the predictions that we listed are pretty clear because now we live in the time that these things are being made clear. If 300 years ago you said people will hop between the sky and the cloud, people go, well, how can that happen? And now we see that happening, right? So the slave girl will give birth to its master. So some people think that there would be a slave woman. And so basically children will become rebellious against their parents. That even a child of a slave girl will treat his mom as a slave. So that's interpretation one. Does that make sense? The second is there will be so much slave trade going on and so much human trafficking going on, and there will be so many Muslims or other people that a slave girl would not know that this is my son. So that's the other interpretation.
Okay. Wow. Scary.
Okay. Yeah. Any other questions? Because now we're at the last minor sign, which is a very, very important moment, and we need to talk about this. Any questions? Okay, so let's talk about it. Mahdi, coming of the Mahdi. Who is the Mahdi? Okay, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this is not in the Quran, okay? We learned this from a lot of hadith. There will be a man, his name will be Muhammad ibn Abdullah. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, an authentic hadith said. Whose name was Muhammad ibn Abdullah? Whose name was that?
Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Exactly. It was the name of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that, and I'm paraphrasing, combining some hadith. He said that there will be a man who will come whose name will be my name. Okay, and he will not be, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make him righteous overnight. He will be guided, hence he's called the Mahdi. In all this chaos, basically he would not be necessarily a righteous person before, but one night Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make him righteous. And in this huge chaotic world, and you saw the trends, right? When all those trends continue to explode and the character would implode, at that time, this man will come and he will become the Khalifa of the Muslim Ummah, and everybody would follow him. Okay, he will be the Mahdi. Okay, he will rule for 7 years. Okay, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, even if there was one day left in this world, there will come a man right before, and this is figurative, meaning that there will be a Mahdi. Okay, his name will be the name of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He will be the family from the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, Sunnis believe he will be from Hassan radiallahu anh. Shias believe, so Shias also have a concept of the Mahdi, and they believe that he comes from Hussein radiallahu anh. And the 12 Shia, those who believe in the 12 Imams, the 12th Imam is hidden, so they believe that Mahdi will be the hidden Imam, the one who will come. Sunnis don't believe that. They just believe he will be from the family of Hassan radiallahu anh, and there is a reason for that, because Hassan radiallahu anh, he gave up his Khilafah. He only, after Ali radiallahu anh was murdered. After that, his son Hassan radiallahu anh became Khalifa for about 6 months, and then that got taken away. He basically gave up his Khilafah because there was a lot of chaos happening. Long story, we will talk about that maybe much later on. Okay, so that's why they believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will honor the family of Hassan radiallahu anh by having Mahdi come from his family. He will fill the world with justice, right? And he will fight against tyranny and corruption. He will have a large forehead. He will have an aquiline nose. He will have no supernatural powers, okay? He's just a regular human being, but a leader personality who will come and have the people join. There will be a lot of wars happening, between the West and the East and the Middle East, and all of these wars in that area. Okay, and there will be people of Mahdi. They will have armies that will be fighting on the right-hand side. There will be Jewish people who will be part of the Muslims, and they will fight against the other bad Jews, and the Christians will join forces with the Muslims, and they will fight each other, and there was lots of all of these things happening. Okay, so Mahdi, Mahdi radiallahu anhu, he's to come later on. He will bring peace to the world, try to bring peace to the world. Okay, let's see, there's a lot of other detail that I kind of want to skip. There's some signs that are happening, and essentially then Mahdi, as he is fighting, suddenly there will be a rumor that Dajjal has arrived. Who is Dajjal? We'll talk about Dajjal in a second. Dajjal has arrived, and that rumor will turn out to be false. When people find out that that was a false rumor, lo and behold, Dajjal actually arrives. Okay, the Antichrist, as it's known in the Christian tradition. And by the way, there are a lot of parallels to the Christian and the Jewish tradition with everything I said. Okay, all of this is in the book of Revelations, and if you look at a lot of that. So Dajjal will arrive, and then Dajjal is the kind of person that people can't fight him. Okay, and we will learn about that in a second. So our army of Mahdi, they will try to fight Dajjal, but they wouldn't be able to fight Dajjal. And one day, so this is the first major sign now. Arrival of Dajjal, right during the time of Mahdi. So Mahdi was the last of the minor signs, and arrival of Dajjal is the first major sign. If you look at the list above that we talked about, the 10 major signs, what was the 10 major signs? Dajjal. Okay, so who is Dajjal? We'll learn about him in a second. Okay, then who can fight Dajjal? He's there, he's out there, he's deceiving people. That's what he does, that's what he came for. The Antichrist came for that. And basically at that time, Isa alayhi salam will descend. Okay, the arrival of Jesus will happen, and we will talk about that in a bit. Okay, so Jesus alayhi salam will come and he will kill the Dajjal. After that, there's no mention of Mahdi. What happens to Mahdi, nobody knows. Okay, and then it's Jesus's time. In the Christian tradition, this is called the Millennial Age. Okay, so just to give you a little bit of a parallel, we spoke about the book of Revelations in the past. So trials and tribulations, that has been predicted in the book of Revelations as well. It's part of the Christian and Judaic tradition as well. And basically they call that there will be a scroll. There will be a scroll. It will have 7 seals. And every time each seal is broken, some bad things happen. And the last of the seals is the coming of the Antichrist. And then they confuse about the Antichrist. And then there's an anti-God, which is Satan, Shaitan, and Dajjal. Antichrist will fight. There will be a fight, and Isa alayhi salam will come down to give start to a millennial age, which is an age of peace that will come. So I just wanted to give you that parallel very quickly and moving on. Okay, the Christian tradition always also talks about a lot of plagues and all of tribulations, a lot of bloodshed, a lot of war, all of that. So the 7th seal, then when it's broken, it will cause the 7 bowls of bad things that happen, that come out of it. Remember, I told you book of Revelations, it was a dream of one of the pious people at that time. And he wrote down the book of Revelations of what he saw in the dream, which is basically predicting the end times. Okay, moving on. Major signs. So Dajjal, coming of Dajjal. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a lot of ahadith, a lot of authentic ahadith on the Dajjal. This concept is not in the Quran, but Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that in order to seek protection from the Dajjal, continue to read Surah Al-Kahf, especially the first 10 ayahs of Surah Al-Kahf, and memorize them. And whoever memorized the first 10 ayahs of Surah Al-Kahf will be protected from the trials of the Dajjal. This is why Muslims read Surah Al-Kahf every Friday. Okay, so Dajjal means the ultimate deceiver. Okay, so he will come as a trial and a test for mankind. He will be the first, after all these trends of bad things, he will come as a trial and a test for all humankind. By the way, is it okay if we don't take a break today because I want to finish this off? Is that cool with everybody?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, good. Is this fascinating to you? I know
Yeah.
you guys are drinking from a fire hose. Okay. All right. So it's mentioned everywhere. So he will have a deformed face. What would he look like? He would have a deformed face. Basically, he will be one-eyed. His one eye will be smeared. Okay, so this is one way to recognize him. I'm telling you this. So if this happens in your lifetime or my lifetime, this is how we will know. So this is important, okay? Rasulullah constantly warned about Dajjal to people. And there were many Dajjals that came in the beginning. There was actually a person, a young boy at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, believe it or not, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself was afraid that he was Dajjal. He did a lot of magic. He had he actually said that I know where Dajjal is. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself was afraid that he was Dajjal, and but that happened not to be true. He was just a devil worshipper essentially, and he had a pact with some of the Satan. So he was a satanic worshiper. Et cetera, et cetera. I don't want to talk about that detail, but if you are curious about who that guy was, which is fascinating, on its own, it's fascinating. His name was Saf ibn Sayyad, okay? And there is a whole chapter in Muslim, in Sahih Muslim, no, not Sahih Muslim, in I have this written somewhere. In one of the books of Hadith that talks about basically Saf ibn Sayyad. There's a whole chapter dedicated to him, either Abu Dawood or Ibn Majah, I can't remember. Okay, there's a whole chapter on him. So if you're curious who that was and what the stories was, I don't want to cover that right now, not important, because that's not the signs of the Day of Judgment. But I just want to let you know that the Dajjal figure is a very, very important figure, and it is something that needs to be warned about over and over. I want you to take this message to other people that this is what Dajjal will do, and this is how you recognize him. Okay, he will of course not be a Muslim. He will have supernatural powers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give him supernatural powers. He would not be able to enter Mecca and Medina though. So if you want protection from Dajjal, you would go to Mecca or Medina. He cannot enter. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not allow him to come into Mecca and Medina. He will not have a child. Okay, is Dajjal alive now, or will he be born to parents? Two opinions. Mainstream, he will be born just like the Mahdi. He was born to parents, and he will grow up, and he will eventually become righteous one day. Dajjal will also be born. And if you've seen the old movie in the 70s called Omen, it just gives me shivers a little bit. So he will be born to regular parents and then turn out to be Dajjal, okay? The ultimate deceiver. But there's some other evidences, and it's in modern tradition that's considered a really, really questionable hadith, okay? Even though it was marked authentic, the narration is authentic, it's questionable hadith because it contradicts with some other concepts. But one time Rasulullah, because the hadith is really odd, and we can look at that hadith, it's listed right here. If you want, I can send you this document. You all want this document so you can look at these references? Anybody interested in it? It's a lot of hard work, man.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So basically, there was a Sahabi. He was not a Sahabi. He was a Christian at that time. They went on a ship and they traveled somewhere toward the east. I'm hearing an echo back. If you can go on mute, that would be wonderful. Okay, so they went and they get lost at sea, basically somewhere, and they ended up on an island.
He's not going to.
Who is speaking? Can you guys find out who's speaking? Can I mute them?
Amr.
Okay. So where were we? Yeah. So one time, a Sahabi who was not a Sahabi at that time, they got lost at sea, and they entered onto an island because their ship broke down, and they saw what we might know it as Bigfoot. Okay, they saw somebody hairy, a Bigfoot type of person who said, "Let me take you to my master," and they took him to the master, and they took it just to a beast-like looking creature that was huge and all tied up in chains. And he said, basically, I'm Dajjal. And they asked a whole bunch of questions to them. So some people, according to that evidence, he's still alive. So you will hear that story in your lives. It is really weak and weird, okay? So there's, for many, many, many different reasons, I would rather not have you believe that was an authentic narration, okay? So the mainstream is Dajjal will be born. Any questions on that? Okay. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said every single prophet gave warning that Dajjal is coming. Even Nuh alayhi salam said Dajjal will come. Okay. Christians believe in the Antichrist. This is what the Antichrist will be. Judaism, they think of they have a concept of a false David, because David was the first king, so there will be an anti-king, a false David. So they also believe in that, and his whole purpose will be to deceive mankind. He will claim to be God. He will have paradise on his one hand and hellfire on another hand. People will enter people who think that they're entering paradise will actually be deceived and will be entering hellfire, and people who will enter the fire, the people who will be entering the fire will enter the paradise. And that's why he is called the Big Deceiver. He will bring rain down just like the Messiah. He will raise dead people to lives, basically trying to prove that he is God, and people will follow him. So people of Iman know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot take a form of a human being, right? We all understand that? So if that time comes in our lives, we will not be deceived. His forehead, it will say kafara on it, kafir. And people of belief and Iman, they will be able to recognize that he is the Dajjal, okay? Remember, I told you he will have only one eye. His eye will be smeared. He will have curly, long hair. He will walk with the crook. He will walk crookedly. He will have a flat face. Kafara will be written on him, and he will be white. Okay, and he will be from a Jewish background. Okay, nothing against Jews. That's just how it's told. Okay, nothing against Jews in this case. Okay, so don't read in too much. Okay. He will claim to be God. We talked about that. He will have a lot of Jewish followers, because guess what? Jews are believing in, so Jews have been waiting on a Messiah, haven't they? They have. The Messiah came to them. What was his name? Isa alayhi salam. They did not believe in him. They think Jews believe Isa alayhi salam was a false Messiah. Then what happened? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came. They did not believe in him, right? So they've been waiting on a Messiah. They've come, but they didn't believe in them. So eventually some Jews will start believing that when Dajjal comes, he is the Messiah. So a lot of Jews will end up following him. Nothing against Jews, but some of the Jews will get deceived that they'll start believing in him, okay? So he will have a large following of Jewish people. Okay, he will visit every major city in the whole world within 40 days, and he will give people security, a false sense of safety and security, right? You come to me, you join my force, and I will make you secure, okay? And I talked about that hellfire, and he will bring the rain down, raise people from the dead. He will have jinns at his disposal. He will control the jinns. He will have a lot of superpowers. Okay, so all right, you've heard of the term Armageddon? Yeah, I'm sure you have. Armageddon, where does that term come from? It comes from a Christian tradition and Judaic tradition. What does it mean? There's actually a literal place in Palestine. It's called Har Megiddo, the Mount of Megiddo, okay? That's where the word Armageddon comes from, Armageddon, okay? There's an actual place, Har Megiddo, okay? Bottom line is, remember I told you that there will be a pact between the West and the Muslims, and they will join forces to fight against Dajjal, okay? When I say Muslims, okay, to be absolutely correct, just say believers, okay? Believers in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That could come from the Christians, that could come from the Jews as well, okay? So believers, they will have a pact against to fight the Antichrist because they'll be able to recognize them. But after all of these wars, there will be major wars, and I told you nobody can fight Dajjal, okay? Nobody can fight Dajjal. So there will be armies, and Mahdi will be the army, and the people will be army, and there'll be huge, gigantic, either one war or a series of multiple wars. There's possible indication that some of the wars will be atomic in nature, nuclear wars, okay? That, there will be nuclear weapons exploding, and you'll see why I'm saying that in a second. Okay, so much so that birds will fall from the sky, and there will be smoke everywhere, and Rasulullah talked about smoke, right? So birds will fall from the sky. There will be huge, gigantic wars taking place, but nobody can hurt Dajjal, okay? I don't want to cover a lot of detail. You can read this on your own when I send this out to you. Then the savior will arrive. So Mahdi, radiallahu anhu, okay? He, in a masjid in Damascus, near Damascus. So this was predicted by Rasulullah that Mahdi will be leading a salah. This is all from Hadith, okay? This is not all made up stuff, okay? This is not storytelling. This is all, everything that I'm telling you is, the source is authentic or Hasan Hadith, okay? All right. So Rasulullah predicted that Mahdi will be leading a prayer in a masjid with a big white minaret. And at that time, everybody believes that's a masjid in Damascus, near Damascus somewhere, okay? He will be leading salah with his company, with his army, and then Jesus, Isa alayhi salam, will descend with two angels carrying him. And he'll come, of course, everybody will recognize that is Jesus, because who else will descend from the sky? And he will come down in the masjid. And before Isa alayhi salam comes, the iqama will be called, and Mahdi, who is the caliph of all Muslims, right? As many Muslims as there are at that time, I don't know, 2 billion, 3 billion, we don't know. And so he's the caliph, so he's of course leading the salah. So the iqama will be called for the Mahdi, and Isa alayhi salam will come down, and he will follow Mahdi in prayer, saying that the iqama was called for you, Mahdi, so I will follow behind you. So Isa alayhi salam will stand in the row behind him, and Mahdi will lead the prayer. And then after that, Mahdi is not spoken of. Okay, so what will Jesus come down for? Basically, Dajjal will look at Jesus, and he will melt. And Isa alayhi salam, he will kill Mahdi. Okay, and this is also very parallel to the Christian tradition that Isa alayhi salam will come down and he will throw the Antichrist in the pit of fire, right? So that's also there. And then peace, there will be time for peace. Okay. So basically, that's the end of Dajjal. Nothing fantastic happens over there. Remember I told you about the Christian parallel? The 7 scrolls and the 7 trumpets and the 7 bowls and the vials and the satanic trinity. This is the sequence of events for those of you are curious about the Christian parallel from the book of Revelations, it's right here, okay? I'll allude to this slowly and slowly. Okay, so another thing will happen during the time of Isa alayhi salam, and I hope we can make it to the end. So you've heard of Gog and Magog, Ya'juj and Ma'juj, right? By the way, I'm not leaving any room for questions. I'm hurrying. I want us to pause here for a second. Any questions? Okay, really? No questions, really? My God. Okay, I must be doing a really good job then. Okay, Ya'juj and Ma'juj. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the 10 major signs, he predicted them. This was one of the signs. When will they exactly come? We don't know, but we believe they'll come after around this time because it makes sense, because it goes along with the story of after Isa alayhi salam's arrival. Okay, who are Ya'juj and Ma'juj? Nobody knows. Okay, bottom line, nobody knows. All right, in Surah Al-Kahf in the Quran has 4 stories. The last story is about Dhul Qarnayn, the guy, the person with 2 horns, a very, very righteous person. He saved a people from Ya'juj and Ma'juj of that time, okay? So there were Ya'juj and Ma'juj at that time, and Dhul Qarnayn, he built a barrier to protect the people. He was a very, very rich and very, very powerful king with the great spans of influence. And he protected those people, and he built a barrier, and he trapped Ya'juj and Ma'juj where they are. Some people believe they're trapped to this day, okay? Nobody knows if that is a true statement or a false statement, okay? But this is what it is, okay? So, I mean, the evidence that they are trapped to this day, it's from another weakish hadith, okay? That Ya'juj and Ma'juj are trying to break away from that barrier, and they're trying to break away, and they are able to break away and make a hole like this big every day. But then they go to sleep because they said we'll continue tomorrow, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fills up the hole every single night, and they have to start all over again, then break the hole, okay? So there's a weakish hadith, you will hear about it, okay? So that's why I'm telling you this. All of these stories are really popular, so you will hear about it, inshallah, in your lifetime. But you know, take that with a huge grain of salt. Okay. So, but then there's prediction in the Quran. Okay, in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that Ya'juj and Ma'juj will come from all corners of the globe. Who are Ya'juj and Ma'juj? Nobody knows. Okay, what are they? They are human-like. Okay, they have, let's see, there's some evidences in the Quran here. I just want to skip over this for now. They will have flat faces, narrow eyes, yellow hair, okay? Some people believe that Ya'juj and Ma'juj are figurative, and they really mean 2 nations. It really means, remember the pact that I talked about between the West and the East, believers and the people in the West? They will have a pact. So that's, people think that's Gog, that's Ya'juj, and Ma'juj is the other party, maybe another party. So there will be war and Armageddon between those 2 parties. However, if you look at all of the ahadith, that interpretation is false. They're not figurative parties, Gog and Magog. By the way, Jewish people believe in Gog and Magog, and they think there will be 2 parties. Christians also believe in Gog and Magog, okay? I'm just telling you how it is, okay? So you take it what you might will from it. Again, some of these things can be cryptic, but there are a lot of evidence that Ya'juj and Ma'juj will be actual entities, okay? Who will come and wreak havoc on earth. There will be so many Ya'juj and Ma'juj entities in the world, and human beings will not be able to fight them. Even Isa alayhi salam will not be able to fight them, okay? They will be everywhere, everywhere. So think of ants crawling on a anthill, kind of. That's Ya'juj and Ma'juj. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said there will be 1,000 Ya'juj Ma'juj to every 1 human being on earth. Okay, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he said that all of them will go into hellfire. Okay, so they will wreak havoc on earth. There's a massive lake called the Lake of Galilee. Okay, they one day they will just come during, after the Dajjal has been killed, they will come from everywhere. It's in the Quran. Min kulli hadabin yansilun. Okay, hatta futihat al-abwab. And Yajuj Majuj will come. The door will be opened and Yajuj Majuj will arrive. And in the Quran, Allah says, but when promise of my Lord comes, he will make it level. And ever is the promise of my Lord true. And we will leave them that day surging over each other. And then the horn will be blown. Basically, it's the prediction of Yajuj and Majuj, okay? All right, so that term in the Quran comes twice. Well, actually, 3 times. One in the story of Dhul Qarnayn and 2 other times. Wallahu a'lam. Okay, what they are, we don't know. They will wreak havoc on earth. They will drink from the Lake of Galilee, which is a huge, they call it the Sea of Galilee. It's so big, okay? So if you Google Sea of Galilee, you'll see it. They will drink from it, all of it, and make that lake dry. What kind of weird entities would they be? So Isa alayhi salam, a long story short, will take people into caves to protect them, the believers, okay? In the caves, in the Hadith, it says in the caves of Sinai, where Musa alayhi salam was, in caves over there, protecting people. The believers will be in the, so basically Yajuj and Majuj will kill all disbelievers, okay? And who will be left? The people saved by Isa alayhi salam, the followers of Isa alayhi salam, because they follow him, they will follow him in the caves. So only there will be believers, okay, that will be saved. After a while, we don't know how long, one person from the believers will say, let me go check what's going on outside. He will go outside and he will see that all Yajuj and Majuj are dead. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will do something that all Yajuj, Majuj will die all together in one instant. However, there will be a bad, huge stench from their corpses, from the corpses of Yajuj and Majuj, okay? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Isa alayhi salam will make a dua, special dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rain will fall down and will wipe away the stench and basically dissolve the bodies essentially. And I'm extrapolating here when I say dissolve the bodies of Yajuj and Majuj. Okay, take that with a grain of salt. We don't know. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be rid of the bodies and the corpses and through that rain. And guess what happens? Suddenly the earth will become extremely fertile with because of chaos. There was lack of food and there's nuclear war everywhere, possibly, we don't know, right? There's smoke everywhere, birds have fallen from the sky, there's limited food. So many people have died that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that out of 100 people, 99 will die from the believers. So a lot of people will die, okay? So God knows what's the condition of earth at that time. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through his mercy, he will make the earth fertile possibly through the bodies of the corpses of Yajuj and Majuj. And after the rain, vegetation will start growing. There will be abundance of food, okay, and then there will be what is in Christian terminology called the Millennial Age. Okay, so Christians believe for 1,000 years there will be peace. Okay, we don't know how long, and Isa alayhi salam eventually will marry and pass away. Then he will actually die. Isa alayhi salam will then eventually die. Okay, we don't know when that happens. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells, now we're approaching to the end, the very, very end of times, okay? There will be peace and stability throughout the earth, yes. Mm-hmm.
At this time when Isa alayhi salam comes back, will he still be like a prophet or will he just be like a regular human being?
Yes, of course. Yes, a prophet. He's once a prophet, always a prophet, my friend. Okay. So have you guys heard of the concept of rapture in the Christian tradition? No? Really? Really? Sir Principal, you must have heard of the term rapture. Have you heard of the series, those Left Behind series? Left Behind? No? Okay. Christians believe basically that good people, Isa alayhi salam will come and lift good people away and take him with him. Okay? And the people who will be left on earth will be bad people. It's called the rapture. Okay? Literally, they believe that, like, if I'm one of the good people, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make me one of them. If I'm sitting here on my couch, if rapture arrives, poof, I'll disappear and I'll be taken to heaven. Okay? That's rapture. So similar but not so similar concept in the Islamic tradition now. So let's go back to the Islamic tradition. I just wanted to relate that concept with you. Basically, there will be a time. So remember, Isa alayhi salam now has passed away. Who's left on earth? Good people. Remember, they were all believers. All of the disbelievers were killed by the Ya'juj and Ma'juj, right? So only good people will be left, but a long time will pass by that knowledge will be lifted. Quran will be lifted. The books of the Quran, the pages of the Quran will be empty. Knowledge and wisdom of the deen will be taken away. There will be people who will remember, my parents used to say La ilaha illallah, but I don't know what it means. Okay? There will be that time. Okay? Then, just moving very quickly, there will be earthquakes. There will specifically, Rasulullah said there will be 3 gigantic earthquakes, So much so that, and we learned this in Surah Zilzal, إِذَا زُلْزِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ زِلْزَالَهَا وَأَخْرَجَتِ الْأَرْضُ أَثْقَالَهَا وَقَالَ الْإِنسَانُ مَا لَهَا. That when the earth quakes, and it is meant to quake, okay? And the people will wonder what is wrong with earth, okay? So there will be 3 gigantic earthquakes, one in the east, one in the west, one in the Middle East, okay? Cataclysmic. So that will happen, and not a lot of detail on that. Then there's mention of smoke, okay? It's also in the Quran. So the earthquakes are in the Quran. Dajjal is in the Quran. No, I'm sorry, Ya'juj, Ma'juj in the Quran. Then will be smoke. This is in the Quran. On the day there will be manifest smoke. Wallahu a'lam what that would be. Then there will be a great fire. And it seems like in the evidences, there's no mention of the East or the West, and now the focus remains on the Middle East. Maybe the whole world will be destroyed, and the only thing that will remain will be the Middle East area. There will be fire that will emanate from Eden, from Yemen, from Aden, okay, and that will herd the people toward the Middle East, toward the Palestine area, Sham, okay, the Levant. And it will gather people there. So this is there are you could say evidences of that in the Quran, in Surah Takwir, I believe, وَإِذَا الْحُشُورُ حُشُرَتْ, possibly, that there will be some gathering happen. So people will be gathered, and then people will see the sun rise from the west. So all of this now is happening really fast. There will be a sunrise from the west. And when that happens, Rasulullah said the doors of forgiveness will be closed at that time. So the sun will rise from the west in the morning, say, right? Of course, it's the morning, but the sun will rise from the west. And this is evidence in the Quran, okay? Then there's mention of a beast, which also is in the Quran. What that beast is, wallahu alam. Allah said in the Quran, he will speak to people. So the sun will rise in the morning, and maybe by the afternoon time, the beast will arrive, and then the trumpet will be blown. Basically, there's one angel who is in charge for the trumpet. His name is, from the Hadith literature, we learn his name is Israfil. It's not mentioned in the Quran, okay? His name is Israfil. His only job is to blow the trumpet. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw him possibly when he was going from between Isra and Mi'raj, but he said that I saw, and he is holding the trumpet, about to blow in it, and he has his lips puckered to blow in it. Wallahu alam what that means. But basically, a day of judgment is about to arrive, right? So we learn from that he's just about to blow on the trumpet. The day of judgment will come all of a sudden. People who are putting a bite in their mouth will lift up the bite to put something in their mouth, and the day of judgment, the trumpet will be blown and they'll fall dead. People will be transacting in the middle of the transaction, and the trumpet will be blown and they'll fall dead. Okay, so that's when everyone on earth will fall dead at that time. And then it will be, we don't know how long that time will pass, but the trumpet will be blown one more time, and then the day of resurrection will begin. Then everyone on earth will be resurrected, and then the day of judgment will begin. Okay, so that's what I had for you. Wow, we made it in time. Alhamdulillah. Any questions? I know this is a lot.
Could you tell more about the beast?
The beast, don't know much about the beast. Very, very, very. These are the 2 bullets I have on the beast. Wallah, this is all we have. One is ayah from the Quran. And when the world befalls them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what this beast is. By the way, there's mention of the beast in the Christian tradition as well. There's in the Christian tradition, there is a beast of the sea. There is a beast of the land. Okay, the beast of the sea is possibly Dajjal. Okay, if you run the parallel together, there will be beast of the land. Wallahu alam what that would be.
Sidi Adnan, will you also cover the day of judgment? Kind of like
I can certainly. That's a lot more detail there too. Yeah, I can, inshallah. Maybe next. So this is the last class today. So no more class for the rest of the year, and then inshallah we will begin in January. When is the first day of class?
The 17th. And I'll send out an email to all the parents and students, inshallah.
Okay.
Why
Any other questions? Mm-hmm.
Why does Ya'juj and Ma'juj have 2 different names? Is there any difference between the 2?
Nobody knows. Nobody knows the answer to that exact question. Like I told you, very little is known about what they are, let alone who they are, right? So according to Jewish tradition, Gog and Magog, and you can Google it, okay? You guys can read more about it. Of course, you will find a lot of stuff from the Christian and the Jewish tradition. They believe Gog and Magog are actual 2 warring parties, like I told you. They're 2 big, gigantic armies that are fighting each other. But according to the Islamic tradition, they're actually entities. Who they are, Wallahu a'lam, we don't know. Why do they have 2 different names? Wallahu a'lam, don't know. So if you read the Quran, where the story of Dhul Qarnayn is listed, where he saved the people from Ya'juj and Ma'juj by building the barrier, or even over there, Ya'juj and Ma'juj is you can assume that they're 2 names, right? Ya'juj and Ma'juj. That's how the Quran says. So you can think that they're 2 people. Maybe it's 1 name. I don't know.
But like you said, they could be 2 different people from 2 different nations, potentially.
Could be.
Yeah.
Again, but they're actual entities, okay? They're not figurative.
So I'd always imagined, and I know you will cover the Day of Judgment at another time, but I'd always imagined in my head that the Day of Judgment will be on another dimension, you know, not on Earth, but it kind of sounds like it would be here on Earth.
Yeah, so thank you for reminding me. Let's go back to the Christian tradition and run some parallels, right? So they believe that the rapture will occur. So good people will be lifted away. By the way, there's a book series in the evangelical community that's extremely famous called the Left Behind series. So and they even have made, Hallmark TV movies and those kinds of things. Left Behind series, check it out. You'll find it on Amazon Prime too. Okay, you can watch it if you're interested. Basically, the whole story and the drama is good people are being taken away, and there are people who are left behind, the bad people. And so that's basically the author's storyline. So the rapture will happen. Jesus will take up the believers. He hasn't come down yet. Okay, the 7 seals will be broken. The 7 trumpets. Bad things will happen. There will be satanic trinity that will form, that will fight and deceive people. There's going to be the anti-God, which is Satan, also known as the dragon. Okay, again, this is a dream. There will be the Antichrist, the beast from the sea, and an anti-prophet, the land beast, wallahu a'lam. Okay, then there will be Armageddon, right? There will be Armageddon. Jesus comes down and ends the Armageddon, okay? Ends the war that's happening caused by these satanic trinity. And we've kind of heard that, right? And he will defeat and bind Satan. And then there will be a start of the 1,000 years of peace, the Millennial Age. Then at the end of the Millennial Age, there's the battle of Gog and Magog, Ya'juj and Ma'juj, very similar, right, to Islamic tradition. There will be good people left on earth, and then Ya'juj Ma'juj will come. So Ya'juj Ma'juj will come. Then there's a concept of the lake of fire. Remember, we talked about fire. And this is of the 10 signs that Rasulullah said that there will be fire, okay? There's going to be a lake of fire. Earth will be destroyed by that fire. Then judgment will happen. So all of this is almost in line with what I just told you, okay? This is the book of Revelation. Then to go back to your question now, Sayyidi, you said, right, so the Christians believe that the day of judgment is not another dimension. There will be a new heaven and a new earth. So this earth will convert into a new earth, okay? And there will be a new Jerusalem. And then people will live in eternity with Jesus, eternity with the Jesus known as the perfect age. Okay, and of course, Muslims, what do Muslims believe? After people will be resurrected, whether it's another dimension or where Allah wills, we don't know, okay? Maybe this whole universe collapses, wallahu alam, we don't know. And then we will be resurrected, we don't know where, and then there will be day of judgment, and then those who have Allah's mercy in Jannah will be in Jannah forever, right? So the same kind of concept, perfect age.
Okay, thank you for sharing.
Does that answer your question?
It does. And Sidi Adnan, I know we're over time, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for taking us through this discussion, and all the previous discussions have been fascinating. And I don't know if any of the students want to say a word of thank you to Sidi Adnan.
Thank you, Brother Adnan.
Thank you, Brother Adnan. I really enjoyed your lessons.
Thank you, Brother Adnan.
Okay, thank you for listening. I hope this is of benefit. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if there's anything I said incorrectly that's from shaitan, or anything that came out that was good, that was from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just continue to make dua for me and pray for my guidance and perseverance, and I will do the same for you. And you guys have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful holiday. Okay, I'll see you next year, inshallah, if Allah gives us life.
See y'all next year, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.